Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We've got a special show for you today. Let me tell you a little bit about it. We are going to be discussing the idea of energy and where does energy flow. Where does it flow? It flows where our attention goes, of course. Anyway, before we get started, of course, I just want to let you know that we are simulcasting on my Facebook page. If you're listening, you can listen as well at our Facebook fan page. And with that, let me welcome our co-host joining us live from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Treva Knott. Hi, Treva. How are you today?
Hello. I am doing well. How about you?
I'm okay. Very busy and happy to be here. Very happy it didn't snow. Actually, I wanted to get some things done today, and it's not snowing. How are things for you up there?
Not bad. Yeah, the weather's
Not
okay.
bad. The weather's okay. Only 1 foot of snow.
Yeah.
What?
Hopefully it's done.
I was thinking we would get another snow before the end of winter here. I'm hoping that we do actually, but anyway, so if anybody's watching on Facebook or is listening at Revolution Radio or on my website, actually, Treva is on the chat. So if you have any comments or questions, you can just post them in the chat, and Treva will make sure that we get them, that I get them here through our Skype chat going on here in the background. Anyway, so it's been a really interesting week for me. I've been extremely busy. Just, what can I say? Just way too busy. I don't think I mentioned it last week, but as many of you know, I'm involved with a local charity nonprofit here, the Roanoke Diversity Center. And our chairman resigned at the last moment about 2 weeks ago. And as the vice chair, they elected me as the chairman. So trying to get everything organized and learn what it is a chairman of a nonprofit does. I kid around when I said I felt like the designated survivor being elected to this position. But I mean, I do have years of experience with a nonprofit, but I know it's going to take up a lot of my time, which is exactly why I thought this was a great talk to do about our attention and energy and where our focus is. If anything, I'm hoping that by the end of today's talk, we'll all have a little bit more discipline as to what we're giving our attention to, and is it? I don't want to say is it worthy, but is it enhancing our life? Is it empowering our life? Are we giving our attention to things that are not making our lives better or making anybody else's life better? We talk about energy quite a bit. And how energy vibrates and creates these ripples. And we talk about how every thought is energy. So let me start today's talk on where attention goes, energy flows. And my inspiration for today's talk came from a metaphysical experience I had about 2 weeks ago. I went into an altered state of consciousness and had a bit of a, I don't want to say an out-of-body experience, but perhaps out of mind might be the better correct term. I kind of was able to slip out of my ego for a little while. And as I was coming back into my ego, well, first of all, as I'm in the ethers or the astral, maybe we can call it an astral projection or an OBE, um, my higher self or my guides were reminding me that I had lost a little bit of my mental discipline and to begin to refocus where my energy was going. And that's what inspired me. And as I was returning to my normal state of consciousness, I felt the little, what do we call it? The little monkey mind in the background trying to get my attention, and little fears and anxieties trying to rear their head. And oh, you're so busy, you have to do this, you got to take care of this, and you've got, my whole week laid out in front of me. Pay attention, And I want to stay in this center, and my heart and my consciousness were demanding to stay focused and in that center. Now, since then, of course, I've enjoyed myself. I've socialized. I've worked. I've had to do my daily work, not only for the consciousness media that I do, or the Facebook page, or the community center, but somehow, and for some reason, because I've been vigilant and maybe disciplined as to what I'm giving my attention to, I haven't really felt much stress. So I was talking with Treva last week, and I told her, I said, well, I think I want to share this experience with everyone, which is what I'm doing now, and perhaps give some pointers, some direction, some tools. And what I'm going to be covering today is the idea of energy, of thoughts. Thoughts become things. What we think about, we become, etc., as well as, where our attention goes, that's where the energy is going to flow. And we're going to cover several ways of looking at it, as well as what we can do within our immediate surroundings, because we seem to think it's all within our mind, but it's also around us. And I talk about that quite a bit as to our senses. What are we exposing our senses to? Whether it be music, whether it be television, whether it be what our home looks like. What are we looking at right now? What are you looking at right now? What is drawing your attention? Are you looking at a computer screen? Are you looking out the window? Are you looking at a poster of nature? Are you looking at a poster of war? What is it that we are exposing our senses to? So with that being said, what we choose to go looking for in life, the good or the bad, can have a dramatic effect not only on our view of the world, but on our sense of well-being as a result of that view. So how are we approaching the world? Depending on whether we look for something good or something bad, the results we find often reinforce whatever belief or value system we held to be true when we started searching. I kind of link this into the idea of the law of synchronicity. Let's say you bought a blue car, and all of a sudden you're so focused on your blue car, you're going to see every blue car that is on the road. It's always going to be brought to your attention because that's where your energy is, your focus, your excitement. The same thing happens with the world, how we look at the world. Wayne Dyer says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's kind of, where are we coming from? How are we approaching our perception of the world, and of course, what are we focusing on? If we believe that the world is cold and self-centered and there's just lots of arrogant people that don't care, our subconscious is going to begin to create scenarios and put us into scenarios to reinforce that very thought. If you think people are just horrible people and they're self-centered and they're just, they just let you down, you're going to find more and more people that let you down. If the same can be said for the opposite, if you feel that, humanity is wonderful, that humanity is loving, that humanity is caring, you're going to find people are drawn to you, that are loving, caring, generous, etc. It's going to do everything we can. Our mind is going to do everything it can to prove us right. I love the scene in the Law of Attraction. What was that movie? The Secret. And they were talking about a gentleman. I believe it was the guy. He worked at an office and he was gay or something, and he was always getting picked on, and he was always afraid to go out, and he was constantly getting bullied and whatnot. And because of his fear of constantly getting bullied and being picked on, he was constantly getting harassed at work. He was getting harassed on the street. He was getting harassed everywhere because he thought that the world wanted to pick on him. And he drew that reality to him. He looked for it, so he found it. And then, of course, when he changed his perception of the world, if I remember correctly, he was a comedian and just started looking at it in a humorous way. It stopped. He looked at it like, oh, silly you. That victim mentality had to be shifted into something a little more empowering of okay, I am who I am, and I don't necessarily care what people think about me. So that was a great example if you all have ever seen that movie. The primary function of our subconscious mind is to follow the instructions of the conscious mind. So, man, a lot of us don't even acknowledge our subconscious. Many of us are either so involved in our day-to-day life, our automatic pilot, that we don't realize what our subconscious mind is doing, what's in our subconscious mind. But it's amazing how easily our subconscious mind does pay attention to our conscious mind. We have the ability to, I don't want to say control it, but to guide it in the direction and guide it to utilize the tools that are within us. And it does this by proving that whatever the conscious mind believes is true. In other words, the job of the subconscious mind is to prove the conscious mind is always right. So if you want to feel feelings of abandonment, I'm sure we've all had feelings of abandonment, you're going to find that you're being abandoned in one way or another, or you're lonely, or the same goes for being happy, being joyful, being blissful. Our subconscious mind will tap into those moments, those memories, and that energy to prove that we are right. If you consciously believe that you can't be, do, or have something, the subconscious will create the circumstance and find the people to prove that you are right. And that's from Robert Anthony. When you expect rudeness from people, you're setting yourself up to be more attentive to it, even if it's something you don't want. And when you are more attentive to something, you are more likely to find it, at the expense of not being attentive to the things you're not paying attention to. In other words, if your subconscious mind is busy trying to prove your conscious mind that people are rude, mean, the world is cruel, nobody cares about you, nobody cares about the world, you're going to be so busy focusing all your energy on that you're not going to have the time and energy to focus on what it is that life brings you, the good things, the blessings, the empowering aspects of your life, the happy times of your life, the happy details of your life. And that also may go for bringing in the things you want in your life. And, it's very interesting because, again, I feel like I just went through a little life lesson myself where I was getting very frustrated with my work. I was getting frustrated with the ability to raise funds, to get more equipment, to get new software, and all the things I didn't have. I was getting very frustrated. And by being frustrated, I wasn't paying attention into what I can do to bring that into my life. I was distracted with the idea of not having, instead of focusing on the energy of bringing in, of creating, of being creative. And again, it wasn't until about 2 weeks ago I had that aha moment. It was like, well, What are you doing here? What do you want to focus on? So, for example, if I told you to stop for a minute and look around you for all the things that are the color red, okay? So look around your room, wherever you're sitting, look for everything that's the color red. Your brain's going to register all the things around you that are red, okay? So do that for a second. You would be able to list them with a high degree of accuracy. But then if I immediately told you to close your eyes and now list all the things that are the color blue in the room you just searched, there's a good chance you're going to miss several of them because you weren't looking for blue, you're looking for red. That's a very easy, simple example of how our mind works. If you're looking for red, you're not going to see blue. If you're looking for sad, unhappy, you're not going to see happy, joyful. Now, I'm talking colors here, but I could easily be talking about the things that irritate you or upset you. If you go looking for irritating things, it'll often be at the expense of registering all the things that are pleasant or beautiful around you. Because whatever you focus on is at the expense of whatever you're not focusing on. So let's remember that key point here. Whatever you are paying attention to is at the expense of the things you're not paying attention to. So let's be vigilant. Let's gain back the guidance of our consciousness, of our energy. Let's reprogram, for lack of a better term. Deprogram might be an even better way of saying it. Deprogram and begin to focus on that which we want to feel, see, and experience. Again, energy flows where attention goes. If you want to see more things that you desire in this life, things that are important to you, things that make you feel happier, things that bring you joy, it's important to make a conscious effort to be grateful for what you already have. And always focus on what you want and what you want to see more of, and not on what you don't want or the lack of something. And I know this is from personal experience. We all slip into that, and that's fine, but we must be able to have the tools to bring ourselves back to that center and begin to focus our attention on gratitude of what we do have, acknowledging what we do have, and being able to focus on that which we want. Now, a lot of people feel, and I went through this my first 5-10 years of my awakening back especially in the early 2000s of, well, I am a spiritual person. I'm not supposed to desire. Desire is a sin. That old programming that wanting something for ourselves is wrong, and that we need to be in service to others always and care about other people first. Well, guess what? You can't pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. And in order for me to share empowerment, happiness, joy, inspiration, I need to feel happiness, joy, and inspiration. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. And the same thing goes for anybody, for anyone. There's nothing wrong with wanting to experience the human experience at its highest potential. Isn't that why we're here? Isn't that why we chose to incarnate in this body? Of course, we have karmic lessons to be learned. Maybe that karmic lesson is to acknowledge that life is love, that love is joy, that joy is happiness, and to be able to allow ourselves to focus our energy on love, joy, happiness, peace, gratitude. It's something that maybe is that life lesson. But believe me when I say the spirit, whatever you want to call it, the soul, the higher self, did not incarnate in this human form to suffer. to look for suffering and to live in constant suffering. We were here to experience joy, experience the things that we can't experience in a disincarnate form. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. That's from Marcus Aurelius. What are the types of thoughts that you have? How can we change the quality of thoughts? The type of thoughts you hold in your head have a direct impact on the reality you perceive. This includes the severity of aches and pains you experience, as well as how gracefully you age. And boy, can I relate to that. If we're constantly focusing on, let's say you've had a back injury or a neck injury or an arm injury, if you're constantly focusing, oh, how does my arm feel today, or how does my neck feel today, and you're gauging your happiness on that, it's going to bring attention to it. It's going to enhance it. I'm not saying to ignore aches and pains. Of course not. If there's something wrong, you need medical attention or whatever it is that you need to relieve that. But if you're constantly living in that cycle and focusing only on that instead of, oh, well, my one arm might ache a little bit, but my other arm works fine and I can paint with it, I can write with it. For example, by paying attention to pain on a daily basis, we're wiring ourselves neurologically to develop a more acute awareness of pain perception. Because the related brain circuits become more enriched, your own personal attention has that much of an effect on you. Many of us talk about neuroplasticity. It's a great example, creating that circuit in our brain to constantly look for pain. And it's like wearing down a beaten path and just beating it down and creating this easy path to go in that direction, for the thoughts to go in that direction. This could be one explanation of how pain and even memories from our distant past characterize us. What we repeatedly think about and where we focus our attention is what we neurologically become. Neuroscience has finally understood that we can mold and shape the neurological framework of the self by the repeating attention we give to any one thing. And that is Joe Dispenza from The Science of Changing Your Mind. This is why it's vital to always remember to focus on solutions, not problems. If you don't like something, don't focus on what you don't like. Focus on what you can do to change it. I know many people might say, well, that's easier said than done. No, it's actually a reflex. I would have to disagree with you. It is a reflex for our mind and our body to look for a solution. If you are putting your hand on a hot stove, your body is not going to sit there with your hand on the hot stove and say, oh, I don't like this. No, of course, it is going to pull the hand away from the hot stove. It is a reflex. The same thing goes for an unhappy relationship. When you are in an unhappy relationship, of course, you're going to want to separate yourself from that. Now, do we do that? No. Some people stick around, yeah. Some people live in cognitive dissonance and say everything's okay, but their insides are telling them it's time to move out of this relationship. It's time to move out of this job. It's time to end that friendship. Or if there is no friendship, if there is no relationship, maybe your mind, your heart, and your spirit are saying to go look for one that's pleasant, balanced, loving. It is a reflex. So I can't agree when people say, oh, it's very hard to do. No, if you listen to your body, if you listen to your heart, it is within you to find solution and not just sit in the problem. What happens? We get addicted to being in that crisis mode. We begin, again, that neuroplasticity kicks in. We get addicted into being in that victim mode. that crisis mode, that the world is horrible mode, the world is ending mode, my life is over mode, looking and looking and looking to prove and enhance that miserable world perception that now makes us that we've become identified with. We identify with the negative and the problem versus listening to our body and our heart and not focusing on the solution. It is vital to always remember to focus on solutions, not problems. Look for the good and remain conscious of where you choose to focus your attention and how you're directing your mental energy. Refuse to emotionally succumb to the negative events around you and tap your mental toughness to thrive in any environment. The good guy doesn't always win, and justice doesn't always prevail. But where you direct your mental energy will always determine your attitude, and it will always be controlled by you. That's Steve Seibold. Energy flows where your attention goes. Make sure it's where you truly want it. Because when you really think about it, this world and everything we call life is amazing. It is. And it's a shame for people to miss out on the good stuff because they're not paying attention. How many times have you driven down a beautiful landscape and missed it because you're inside your head thinking about something? Oh, well, my husband won't change the radio station, or, my kids are being brats. They won't shut up in the back seat. Or, how many times have you been focused within your mind and missed something gorgeous going on around you? Remember, we have the ability to focus. We have the ability to direct the energy. And what happens when the energy goes out? What is the law of attraction? What is the law of karma, of energy, whatever it is? That which we ripple out into the world is going to